Have you ever wondered what developer relation engineers and developer advocates do? Are they really just hanging out on Twitter all day and comment on YouTube videos? Stay tuned for the brutal and honest truth. A while ago, I gave a talk at a local meetup called Developer Advocacy or Developer Relations: What I Really Do. It's a direct recording from a Google Meet call, so the quality might not be awesome, but I hope you still enjoy the content. So without further ado, let's get you started on what developer advocacy, developer relations, developer experience, etc. really is. Or in short, the answer to the question, what am I doing, right? And that's actually a question I regularly ask myself as well. So I think it might be worth taking a step back and first ask, what is my company actually doing, right? I told you we provide SDKs. So if you go to our website and you hover over the products tab, you see four things. You see chat messaging, you see activity feeds, live video, and auto moderation. So that means we offer SDKs that other people can incorporate into their products. But that leaves an interesting question. So who is our target audience, right? So who do we want to target when we try to get customers? One group of people is developers, right? They need to integrate our product into their systems. So that makes sense. It might be product managers. They need to decide whether they want to, for example, build chat themselves or they want to incorporate one of our products. There's also other people like CTOs and many other people who might have a say in the decisions the company makes. But very specifically, it's not end users, right? So nobody who just sits around scrolling through their phone will buy our product because, well, that's not what we produce. It's not what we aim for. All right, now, knowing this, we can try to be a little bit more specific about what developer advocacy is. And I did the smart thing, and I went to a book that's called Developer Relations, and I copied this diagram. And that's cool, right? Now you know everything, right? Perfect. But it's not really that clear what that means, right? There's community at the bottom. There's terms like developer marketing, education, success. So it doesn't really make it clear what it actually is that I'm doing. So next question I was asking myself is like, which department does developer advocacy actually belong to? And for that, there's different answers. There's engineering, marketing. Sometimes it's the CEO. It might be sales. It might be the product teams. So also that's not like a very, very clear answer that you get what it might be. I'm lazy. So the next step I took was to ask other people because they might know better, right? The first answer I got is, so you do something with animations, right? That's a so-called friend of mine who might be here today, so I don't want to disclose anything who that was. But yeah, like that's okay. I like animations. You might have seen that from the presentation already. But it's not really describing very well what I'm doing. Okay, so the next answer I got was, half of the time we're not sure what we're doing, but we sure have fun doing it. So that's good. At least we have a good time doing it, right? It's not always that we know exactly what it is, but we have a good time. That was a colleague of mine, and I have to say it was rather late at night when he gave that answer. So the next answer I got is better. It's you take 1 ounce of tech skills, 1 ounce of soft skills, mix it with a good helping of writing, spiced it up with a pinch of crazy ideas, and now you go and execute on the result. That was the same colleague, and it was actually even later at night, but at least it got better, I think, because it describes already a few things of what are important in the role and the job. So one is tech skills. So it is a technical role after all. So you need some tech skills. You also require soft skills, which I think are always important in every role you can have, right? But especially in this one. Writing, okay, that means some form of content creation. Crazy ideas, okay, so some form of creativity, that's good. But in the end, you need to execute on that, and whatever that might mean, right? We will get to that later on. The next quote I got is from a marketing specialist in my company. And I think she put it really nicely because she said it's a beautiful wave of real relationships based on helping others, joining forces, making sense, growing, connecting, and it's a movement. And she also thinks it's cool and powerful. Okay, so that gives a few other things. So it has to do something with relationships, right? That can be with other companies, maybe, other people, maybe people from the same company or from others. It also means helping people, which is cool, right? And growing, connecting, and so yeah, like there's a few more things to it. The best description I found, I think, is this. So it's a role that involves building and nurturing a community of developers. Okay, so we build communities with developers around a particular technology or product. So in our case, it's the company's product, so our SDKs, right? So we want to build a community around that. It involves creating resources, providing support, and promoting the technology or the product. Okay, so there's basically three things, right? Creating resources, providing support, and promoting the technology. And like I know that Nora, she mentioned already that AI might be cool. So I have to admit, like this was actually created by ChatGPT. I asked it to describe to me what developer advocacy is, and it's pretty good at it, unfortunately. All right, but now we have that diagram I showed you earlier, right? And maybe we can make a little bit more sense out of it. So we see there's a community at the bottom, and you can see it's split like a tree, right? So the root is the community. That's important. And then we have developer education at the top. That is basically the creating resources type. Then on the left, we have developer marketing. Well, that's promoting our product. And then developer success, that means in some form providing support. And that can have different types of support, and everything has different types of things you can do with it. And I'll get to it more in a bit. All right. So like from these quotes and these descriptions, we get a few things that are important in the role, right? One is community, right? It's about building a community around a product, around a technology. The second thing is content creation, right? So it might be that you produce some form of content in the role. You promote the product or the technology. That makes sense. You also help others. So maybe, for example, when we have our SDK and we have a potential customer and they want to incorporate the SDK into their products, they have questions, right? And well, we need to help them build that and integrate our product. So that also makes sense. We had the tech skills. That's a necessary thing, right, in that role. And then we have the crazy ideas part. That is, of course, always an interesting thing because you can go different ways with crazy ideas. I have more on that later on, but yeah. So we have a few things that are important in the role. And now I was thinking about like what is the best way to demonstrate how this might work in real life, right? So that sounds great, but like how does that work in the end? And for that, I want to play a game with you. So the game is pretty simple. I will show you pictures, right? And the task you have is you have to say whether that was part of my work or whether that was part of my private life. Okay? So we're going to play it like this. I will show you a picture and you raise your hand if you think this was work related. Okay? Everybody understood that? All right. So this is the first image. So who thinks this was work related? Okay, it's an easy one. Yep, that was work. That was speaking at a conference this last year with a colleague, and you can already see that like we're wearing our stream shirts, right? That's not a coincidence. So it means we were talking there. We were giving a talk, but at the same time we were there as representatives of the company, right? So we promoted our product in some form. So yeah, that was the work part of that. All right, next image. Who thinks that is work related? Okay, less people, some undecided. That's also work. That was actually after the conference or the attendees had a dinner. But like you could consider this private as well, of course, but I was still there as a representative of the company, right? Talking to other developers, talking to other people who might be interested in our product. So it's not like, I mean, there was in Cologne. You might have guessed that by all the Kölsch that was standing around there. So you might have guessed like, okay, like it's just a casual thing, but yeah, it's a mix, right? So yeah. All right, next one. Who thinks this is work? Okay, half a person. All right. Nope, nope. That's me. Just in my private life. I had the goal of going to a summit last year and seeing one of those crosses there. I made it to the top. It was very cloudy. I couldn't see anything up there, but it was still fun. All right, next one. Who thinks this is work related? Okay, okay. What gave it away? Maybe all the stream T-shirts. Yeah, yeah. Very very correct. This was also at a conference. So yeah, work related. We had a booth there, so the company was sponsoring the conference, and as part of my job, I was going there, talking to many, like really many people about what we do, about what our product is, about the company itself, what we offer, and many more things. So it's also part of work, right? Okay, next one. So who thinks this is work? There's beer. Just there, like there's beer here, and he looks funny. So okay, many people think it's work. That's correct. That was actually also at a conference. And the thing was that like one person who wanted to speak at the conference couldn't make it. And the organizers were asking us if we could like provide an alternative program for that. So we created a little quiz that was played on stage. And the cool thing is they promoted that with the company name again. So again, people heard the company name, which was good for the company, of course. But it also meant that we had to work late because that was the evening before the conference and it was a pretty tight time schedule. So yeah, but yeah, that was work as well. Okay, this one. Who thinks this is work? Okay, yeah, that was easy, right? It's me trying to survive on a bike, which is challenging at times. Okay, next one. This is also an image. Who thinks this is work related? Yeah, also easy, right? The stream thing gives it away. But it shows another aspect of the work because what this actually is it's promoting an open source project that I built with a colleague of mine. And we did that in our work hours, right? So we had the opportunity to work on this because we were passionate about that, and that's a library for mobile apps or for iOS apps that does different full screen effects, right? It's open source and people can look at it, and it's published under the company umbrella. But like this is still something we were passionate about. This has nothing to do with our product itself. So we were able to work on this in our working hours. So that's pretty cool. But it's also part of the work because when people go there, they will see the name of the company and they will see, okay, that's cool. They do that. So maybe they'll visit our website. They will go further and see what we're doing. All right, next one. Who thinks this is work? Right, another easy one, right? This is a thumbnail for a YouTube video. So that's a simple tutorial on how to build an application with our product. Okay, so another aspect is YouTube videos, right? Tutorials for that. That's also part of the work. Okay, the next one is challenging. Do you think this is work? Okay, Anna thinks it's work. Well, the excitement on my face could suggest it, but nope. That was actually during my daughter's birthday, and the kids were singing kids songs. That's tough because, like, if you hear that, sorry, that's true. That's true. I'll think about that. But yeah, like kids songs are terrible because you hear them once and they stick in your head for like forever, right? No, please. Like, I think we all know it. All right. Okay. So this was easy, but the next one might be more challenging. So who thinks this is work? Okay. Okay. We have a few. That's actually correct. That is part of my work. Um, So together with a colleague, we created animation challenges for the community so that people could build them. And we would look at them, make videos about that and talk about them and show how you could do that. But we also needed to promote that. So like this specific one was about the new dynamic island thing for the iPhone. And so we made a video that was island themed. And yeah, that was the way I dressed up for that. But yeah, like it's also another example of what you could do in my job. Okay, that's a simple one, right? Who thinks this is work? Maybe, yeah, okay. Many think it is. That's true. I made a few Twitter Spaces, it's called, with a colleague. That's also another thing. Like it had nothing to do with the company itself, but it's just with the iOS community and talking about different topics that are relevant there. But the idea is that, okay, people will listen to that. They will see who we are. They will see where we work. And that way, our company will again be acknowledged and people will know it, will know the name and might think about that when they see the for next time that, yeah, I need something like the products that we have. I have another challenging one. So do you think this is work or not? Okay. We have two who think it's work, yeah? 2.5, 3, okay. All right. So it's both. That situation was like a colleague of mine from the sales team. We together built a demo for a potential customer, and something was not working. And 10 minutes before the call with the customer, he called me and asked, "You need to help me. It's not working. Please fix it." Right. So I was sitting on the sofa trying to fix that, and my daughter came into the room. With a confetti cannon in her hand. And I have no idea where she got that from. Like, I have really no idea where she got that from. She came in, she loudly screamed, "It's party time," shot the confetti cannon, and like everything was covered in confetti. Uh, I'm not sure what the other person in the meeting thought, that like confetti was pouring all over me, but well, that happened. We fixed it in the end. It worked, so that was good. But you can see, like the combination of both can be pretty fun as well. All right, next one. If we have a few more, only a few more. So who thinks this is work? Okay, most people. Yeah, this was building a demo application. So I work remotely. So I'm basically sitting at home all the time. And it's challenging if you try to build a product that involves video calling, but you're alone. So you need to be creative. So I had nice participants in the video call, and here's a bit of the behind the scenes of that. So yeah, it involved some improvising, but it worked in the end. So yeah. All right, next thing. Who thinks this is work? Okay. You might notice, yeah, it's work. But you might notice I'm not part of this, right? This was a talk my colleagues were giving at a conference. And what I was doing is the conference was partly remote and partly on site. And they were in Italy talking. And I was sitting at home and I was doing the social media plan for the event, right? So basically covering everything, like doing tweets, being on LinkedIn, answering questions that people had in the chat of the conference. So that's also part of the work, right? Or it can be part of the work to do social activities and social media. All right, I think that should be the last one. Who thinks this is work? Yeah, many, yes. It's also correct. Like this is one of the products that we built for a potential customer. So we had a potential customer who were interested in our chat product. They were in the telehealth ecosystem. So we wanted to build a simple demo app for them, how they could use our product, right? Now that was a lot. There was a lot of images of myself. So I need to remind myself to drink something. And that is why you will see this beautiful animal. That has nothing to do with the talk again, but it's just to calm down a little bit and allow me to drink something. You know what that animal is? Oh, yes. Yes, the answer to the question of what is the cutest animal. All right. Okay, so to continue, You've seen this already, right? Now, maybe we can make a little bit more sense of this with all the examples that I've given you, right? So let's start off with developer marketing. What could that mean? Or what could that involve, right? So one thing is speaking at conferences, right? With that, we market the product and we promote our company. So that makes sense. You've also seen the talking to developers at booths, right? Not only speaking at a conference, but also doing booth work and talking to many people. This can also be anywhere else, right? Not only at conferences, but also at other venues. It means being on Twitter, LinkedIn, or other social media, right? You saw that example as well. And it also means being creative, right? In reaching other developers and other people who might be interested. For example, through Twitter Spaces, through open source projects. The next pillar is developer education. And that can be creating YouTube videos, writing tutorials or blog posts, or again, being creative in reaching developers. For example, creating a quiz at a conference where people will see that and know about the conference by that. The other thing that is mentioned on there is developer success. And it can mean writing documentation, right? Or make people write it. Don't know about your experience, but developers are not always happy about writing documentation. Enable developers, exactly. Yes, very right, correct. It might be that developers need enablement to write documentation, but it can also be that, for example, you're not that proficient. For example, like we have SDKs for Unity, and I've never done anything with Unity, so I can't write anything about that. So I have to ask the people to do it. But it's making sure that documentation exists so developers who want to use the product can succeed. It can be creating example applications or content, or helping sales build custom projects. And it can also be other things like answering questions on Stack Overflow or going to the Discord that the company might have and answering questions there. So it's many, many things. And if you combine all of this, you get developer advocacy or all the other stuff that you might want to name it, right? Now, I hope that you have a better picture of what the field is. So the question is how to get into it, right? So maybe you think, okay, that sounds cool. I want to just be on Twitter all the time and writing stuff. That sounds like a cool job. So I want to share how I got my job, which is interesting, I would say, because that was it. My current boss reached out to me on Twitter, and he wrote me that they have an offering, which is interesting for a few reasons, because he reached out for an iOS role, and I had been doing iOS work as a freelancer on the side, but I've been mainly working as a web developer and some cloud stuff at the time. So it wasn't really my natural habit of things where I worked at. But I actually knew that person from a time during my master's where I wrote blog posts about Flutter. And he knew me from that because he was having a publication about that. And part of my articles that I wrote were published there. So I knew him from that. He remembered me, he reached out. And this is how I got my job, which is interesting, I think. But aside from that, I don't think there's a really clear path into it. I have a few ideas on that, but I'll share that at the end of the presentation because you need some cliffhangers, right, to be interesting. So the next question is like, who is it for? So if you think, okay, I might be suited or I might not. So who is it for? And the first thought I had is, so for introverts, I'm not sure. I wouldn't say it's impossible. And like I would consider myself an extroverted introvert myself. But if you really hate going out there, if you don't enjoy that, there's parts of the job that you can still do, right? Parts of it can be really cool and rewarding, but it's going to be more challenging for sure. What this brings is also imposter syndrome. Does everybody know what imposter syndrome is? Yeah? All right. So this is part of the, I think like the developer community, like many people there have to deal with it. And it's the same for this job as well. So like if you ask me if I have it, I can only say, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like I have that as well. But I think it can be tough in this job specifically, and I'll get to why in a second. But what I think is what helps if you want to do this, if you want to get in that field, is it really helps if you have a few things, or if you're interested or have fun doing a few things. One is sharing knowledge, right? So if you enjoy sharing what you're doing and maybe teaching others or telling others things, sharing what you just learned, that's really helpful. Because like you saw, like my boss reached out to me because of something that I shared earlier, right? It was years before, but he still remembered it. So you never know who sees this, like the value it might have. So I think sharing knowledge is something that's really important, and it helps if you have fun doing it. Being social also helps. I know, it sucks, but I mean, you're here. That's a good start. So I think it's a really good trait to have for that. It also helps if you're curious, because like the job is not like there's not a very well defined space what this job has or what you do at this job. So it helps if you're curious in, for example, other technologies. If you are always curious in building stuff, in creating projects, so that's good. If you enjoy helping others, that's, I think, also something that is important to do, and that really helps if you want to get that there. Building things helps, right? If you want to teach people how to do or how to incorporate your product, it might help if you can build actually with it. And one thing that I think is connected to imposter syndrome is showing initiative. So I mentioned a few times that it's not really clear all the time what you do as a developer advocate or in developer relations in general. So it's important to bring ideas to the table and be creative, and also show initiative of other things that might work, that might not be the traditional route. So you see there's many disciplines to it, but that can be challenging, of course, because like as a regular developer, you develop stuff, and that's kind of it, right? I mean, okay, there's also social components involved there. So that's challenging because it involves many different things. But one thing I like about that is that it really values more than one skill. So like if you can be the best developer and be like the 10x developer that everybody loves, but if you're like a shitty social person, like this won't work, right? So like I think there's a nice thing to that every person who does the job is different, but they all can bring unique things to the table. So for example, one of my colleagues, he's doing a lot of open source work. He's releasing tons of projects, and he's really awesome at it. And he's really good at that. So that's awesome. Another colleague is really good at making videos, right? And he does mostly that. So I think it's really nice to have a role that doesn't only value a single thing, but can actually go into what you're good at, and where you can really bring that in. So I think that's really nice. Right. Of course, for this meetup, I thought about role models, and specifically women in that area. And there's actually quite a few. So like I create this list. I will share the slides, so you can have a look at that afterwards. There's quite a few, right? And this list is not complete, of course. It's just the first that came to my mind. And there's like you see there's different persons there. There's Caroline Levko. She wrote, actually, she co-authored the book on developer relations that I shared this wonderful diagram from. Cassidy Williams, she's also pretty known, and many more. But I think what's interesting seeing this is that there's not really two people who have the same title, right? And that kind of ties into the whole thing of, yeah, it's not really clear what the name of the role is. But I try to give you an overview of what is part of it, right? So you see, like it can be different roles that do the work, but yeah, there's different manifestations of it. So yeah, I think that's interesting. You should definitely check out all of them. And there's actually more. I wrote a tweet about that, inspired by Nora. after a talk we had. And I wrote a Twitter thread that's linked there, so you can have a look at that. All right, some final thoughts before wrapping up. I said that there's no clear path into developer advocacy, right? And I gave you the cliffhanger of, but wait until the end of the presentation because I might have a few ideas. So there's no clear path, but I think there's a few things that can be helpful when you try to build your career in general, and specifically for roles of that kind. So one thing is to be public and be passionate. I was really bad at this in the beginning. So I always thought that like there's no need to share my stuff because nobody will read it, nobody will view it, it won't help anybody. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who thought that way. But actually that doesn't matter, right? Because like if it's interesting to one person, then that's also already worth it. So I was browsing through LinkedIn a few days ago, and I saw one person there, and it was a woman. And I thought about writing her, but I thought it might be inappropriate because in her job title, she had something in the realm of like, don't be loud about what you're doing, but let your deeds speak about that. So don't talk, basically, just stay quiet, work hard, and somebody will notice. And I hate that. Like, I think that's terrible, right? Because like you have to be public about it. You can't expect anybody to know about what cool things you're doing or the things that you're creating or the passions that you have if you're not sharing that somewhere. It might feel weird at first because you might get people might make fun of it. But it's interesting to see because the people making fun of it are mostly people that do nothing, right? It's people that don't share anything, that don't do anything, they're not passionate about anything. They will criticize you maybe, they will say, okay, cool that you shared that, but what about it? But people who are interested in other things, people who share stuff, who create content, whatever, they will actually value what you're doing. So I think that's a really important thing, and you should be really, really public about that. The next thing that is interesting or that you probably should do is experiment. It's not important that that valuable stuff comes out of that, right? So maybe you're passionate about a certain topic, like building, I don't know, a guitar, I don't know, or maybe you're interested in technology related stuff like augmented reality and you build something with it that nobody will use, that's fine. But if you experiment with it, you will get to learn new things. You can be public about it. You can share that. Maybe someone finds it interesting. And I think there's a lot of things you can learn from that you can apply in other areas as well. I think another interesting or important thing is that you shouldn't stick to one technology. I think it's good in the beginning. Like if you start your journey and you get to learn, for example, the software development, it's good that you stick to one topic because you have to learn, right? But aside from that, I think it's important to also have a look at other ones, right? So other technologies can be really interesting. Of course, it should be something that you're interested in, but there can be a lot of value that comes out of it if you're interested in other things. Being social, I mean, everybody who's sitting here is already doing that, right? The people who are joining remotely, well, they're trying, but like you're better at it. So that's good because I think like if you talk to other people, if you talk to other developers, other people who are in the same field or also in other fields, like you can exchange so many ideas. You get to learn new stuff. You get to be inspired by them. You can maybe inspire other people. So I think there's a lot of value in being social and going out, meeting people. And the last thing that I think is important is to have fun doing it, right? Because I think like if you try too hard and if you're not really enjoying what you're doing, then it's not really a thing that probably will last for a long time. But if you have really fun doing things and if you're passionate about them, I think that will stick and people will notice that. So for example, I don't know if Nora remembers that, but when I applied at a previous employer, you were part of my job interview. You were sitting there and like I was finishing my master's. So I didn't have real work experience. But like the thing that Nora asked me about in the job interview was actually a Pokédex app I built and I put on GitHub, right? So I like Pokemon. I mean, everybody does, but like I like it, and I built an app for that because there's an API to collect data, and I thought, hey, it's cool to build an iOS app for that. And actually, that was the topic that she wanted to discuss with me during that interview, and that's just something I had fun doing. Like there was no real value in it, but I think it was like it was something that stick and that she was interested in. So I think that's kind of proving the point of if you have fun doing what you like, then good things can come out of it, right? All right, that was everything. I kept that on because I think these are important points. Connect, talk, ask questions. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them now. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn if you wanna do that. And yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you have a better picture of the developer advocacy role now. I really hope you enjoyed the talk. If you have more questions or want to reach out, always feel free to comment on this video or reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm always happy to hear from you. Have a great day. Bye.